Hello everybody, how are you? Welcome back. I'm Ray. How are you today? I think I slept 2 hours last night. Oh, I hate it when that happens. But I'm feeling good, nevertheless. Feeling good. I wanted to answer a question that I got yesterday that has provoked a lot of reflection and thinking, deep thinking, and it was quite simply, how did I get into energy healing? But it made me reflect, because I had to think, because now it's kind of so natural. I was thinking, where did it all start, and how? How did it all happen? And it's helped me also understand the link between the energy and my own personal path, and that very strong link between energy and what I feel and my spiritual path of awakening. The two have done this. I think that's why I connect energy and energy awareness, and what we feel, as a pathway of remembering and self-discovery, because we have that inner connection, our own inner guidance. And the more we learn to tune in and understand that everything is energy, and that we have that connection at all times, that's how I've come to this. I think it's really interesting. Now looking back, I can see that as a very young kid, I was always very energy sensitive. I was an empath, hypersensitive, hyper aware of whatever was happening around me, but also being able to read between the lines. And I was receiving so much information that I didn't have the awareness at that young age to understand what it was that I was experiencing, and it was deeply uncomfortable at times. Incredibly magical, I remember as well. I remember feeling that connection to something magical, this energy that kind of fizzed and created this lovely sense of magic within me. But at the same time, it was something that I felt was very overwhelming, and I think it was very much why I shut down and disconnected from all that information coming in at an early age. And it wasn't until my health really went into decline that I started reconnecting energetically. And it was a connection to my authenticity, because I'd blocked that very important aspect of who I am, my sensitivity, my ability to really connect energetically, to feel that, and my intuition. And I'm so glad that it's now really something that I can own and celebrate. But it's been a journey in order to get to that place, because being hypersensitive, it was my Achilles heel for so much of my life. Not being able to protect my energy in a way that I could live comfortably, without taking on a lot of other people's energy and feeling overwhelmed all the time. It's been a journey, but here I am. And I think, to continue to answer that question, how I got into energy healing, in my early 40s, when I was really very unwell, there didn't seem to be any understanding in conventional medicine why I was unwell. In fact, as far as their test results were concerned, I was perfectly okay. But I knew I wasn't. So I started looking for answers, and I came across dowsing. I was working with a dowser to help me understand how to heal. And I didn't understand how to heal through dowsing, and I know that is a potential, and that people do heal using dowsing. I've even got means of demonstration. Look, what I found, I haven't picked this one up for years, but this is my pendulum that I had at the time. But I found I was really rubbish at dowsing because my mind interfered too much. It was really interesting. And the first time I picked up the pendulum, and I'd never really worked with energy before, it started swinging, and I was so freaked out, I threw it down and I ran out the room. And now with hindsight, I think it's funny because it was just energy, it's just energy. And the fear came from my own fear base within me, my own shadow. And it's so interesting how we fear what we don't understand. And I hope actually by talking about energy in this way, now that I've really worked through my own shadow and I don't feel scared of energy at all, I'm reconnecting with the magic. I hope that I can help demystify what energy is and the fear around it or the misunderstanding. But yeah, I continued to explore that and spoke to the dowsing woman, and I suggested something. I said, because my mind keeps on getting in the way and I keep on getting an answer that I would subconsciously like rather than truth. And what I felt actually was that my body was the pendulum. I could feel much more in my body. This is how I access truth. And the journey to understanding what truth is, and there's a big question around truth, isn't there? Big conversation. What is truth? But it's what is true for me. And by sitting and using all the natural gifts that I had since I was young, my ability to observe, to be aware of all the information that is available, and then through sitting and observing over years, I've been able to gradually discern what is ego, what is my mind's attachments, where do my beliefs come in and create reality, and to sift through all this so I can get to a point where I am able to discern, okay, what is truth for me, rather than what is a subconscious belief. Because it's so interesting, because our beliefs and our attachments create our reality, and our external experience reflects that back at us. And I can say, on my spiritual path, and particularly working with energy, I've gone down some really interesting spiritual rabbit holes. If I give you one example of that, as I was learning to work with energy and understand what it meant for me, and there was an attachment at one point, a very strong attachment to being an energy healer. It became an identity for me for some time, and everything that was mystical. And I lost myself in that for quite some time. And the rabbit hole I went down was that I held this belief that I was here to heal suffering. This is really interesting because there's an attachment to suffering in society. This belief that I was here to heal suffering and that I could do this as an energy healer was very much my own attachment to needing to fix everybody else's problems, believing somehow that was my responsibility, my purpose in life. Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole of suffering for 3 years. It was not a comfortable place to be, and I was clearing all this suffering, and it's amazing, but that's what my mind created. It was an attachment that I had, a belief that I had. So my own path through energy healing and being sensitive has shown me progressively how the mind creates, through stories, through beliefs, what we can create either subconsciously or through our attachments. Oh, there's sunshine, that's so lovely. It's the ability to let go of these attachments, and therefore an attachment to an identity that you've needed in some way. I needed that identity, I can see that now. I'm not sure what I'd identify as nowadays. yeah, I know that my intention is to show up authentically and be aware of all these attachments. So it's a really interesting question. And yeah, and I continued down that path because it was interesting. I could see that it was very helpful in my own healing as I examined my shadow and all the health problems that I was encountering, and the relationship problems and the financial problems and all the problems that I had in my life were showing me something. And what I found was that as I addressed that within, and there was a shift with the awareness, with the letting go, and using the energy healing, my outer reality started to shift as well. And I saw that particularly in the relationship with my kids. There was a lot of stress in the house early on for many reasons. And as I evolved in my awareness and how I connected and using my natural gifts, that connection with energy and the ability to come within and observe my patterns and attachments and all of these things, I could see that instead of trying to stop my children being stressed or reactive or whatever issue was coming up, I started with myself. I looked at my own patterns, and by shifting my own patterns and behaviors, and essentially that created a shift in my frequency. Okay? This naturally shifted the relationship I had with my kids, the way I interacted, the way I spoke. And it wasn't just the words, it was the frequency they carried. There was naturally more respect. There was naturally more love and connection. And that respect wasn't through authority, it was through a relating in frequency. There was a space being created, and the more I created a space of peace, self-respect and self-love within who I am, this shifted naturally the relationship I had with my children and how they could relate to themselves. It was really interesting. I'm going a little bit everywhere in these thoughts today, but it's so powerful, I believe. You know, it took me all the way, this question of how did you start working with energy and energy healing, to this spiritual truth of as within, so without, as above, so below. But I feel that this ability to be peaceful within, I've seen how my life reflects that. My life is peaceful. And it takes me to the potential, which is perhaps crazy, but I feel it, so I'm going to say it. That the potential for peace on a larger scale starts there. It starts with that ability to be peaceful within. It's not going to be through brokering peace deals, peace talks, where there's piecemeal compromise, and you know, it's going to be from our ability to each of us create that peace within, and then it ripples out, you know. And maybe as more and more people awaken to the truth of who they are and understand this potential for peace, for unconditional love, for forgiveness, for compassion, all of these things, you know, that's a little thing I hold close to my heart that I'm sharing with you today. But yeah, it's an interesting question. This took me all over the place. Yeah. And anyway, just to finish, I guess, on the energy healing, because I don't have any formal training. It's been a very intuitive path of learning to trust what I feel and to discern, to not be attached to the identity of a healer or anything, to not be attached to anything, and to understand what it is I'm creating from that space of presence. Now, I worked with a Reiki master for a while, and as I was coming out of the closet as an energy healer, a little bit nervous at first, dipping the toe in and then retreating and then coming back a little bit further. And I said, is this, am I doing something here? And I worked with her and she said, absolutely, yes, you are. And she said, I wouldn't suggest you train as a Reiki healer because it would block what you're doing intuitively. So that's what I did, and I continued, and I continue to explore. It's fascinating, as I often say. But yes, that was a rather meandering answer to how I got into energy healing. Maybe some of that resonates, and again, I think each path is unique, and it's in sharing our paths, our experiences, that we can understand that we are all very, very connected and similar, perhaps even if it's in our uniqueness. Okay, so thank you for your comments, your thoughts, your questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the next post.